21 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Talk 1480 WHBC. We hear so many opportunities out there for you to help with causes. This is an interesting cause that you might want to listen to.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Congressman Bentivolio from Michigan is walking from Michigan to Washington, D.C. for some very good reasons. And right now he's in Lisbon. He is also on our WHBC Newsline. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Pam and Gary. How are you today?
And I know you're from Michigan. Is it okay you walking in Ohio? I mean, is that a little scary for you?
No, actually, all I've met was a bunch of wonderful people.
That's good to hear.
Well, welcome to Buckeye Country. But I know you have a bigger cause than football this morning.
Yes, I do. Thank you. And thank you very much for taking this call and the interview today. You know, while I was walking yesterday down and riding my bicycle from Highway 57 from Medina to Riceland, approximately 21 soldiers committed suicide.
Oh my.
Yeah, and according to the inspector's office, maybe you've heard, 300,000 veterans died waiting for VA health care. 600,000 are still waiting. That's a shame.
Yeah, you know, there's been an awful lot of talk in Congress about this, but what you're saying is nothing's being done.
Exactly. We have they have in the 113th Congress, was where I was a member. I co-sponsored and voted, of course, for the bill called H.R. 1994, which is this Congress's bill. It's called the VA Accountability Act, and the Senate needs to place that bill on the desk of the president. And we need to get action. We can no longer simply say thank you for your service and walk away. Now is the time to take action. We need to call our U.S. senators, Mitch McConnell's office, the president, and your member of Congress, and demand they do something. And to demand they pass H.R. 1994 VA Accountability Act. And I want everyone hearing my voice to take action today. I'll no longer accept the talk and well-wishing. It's time to demand action. Tell your employer today you want a few minutes to make the call. Ask him or her to make the call too.
Now, I understand you also spoke out, that maybe not against the fact that we're helping immigrants, but the fact that we are having immigrants come in and there's money for that, but not for the veterans.
Exactly. 80,000 refugees are coming into this country and they're getting food stamps, a check, free housing, and free medical care, while our veterans are standing, waiting in line months after months after months, trying to get the health care that they were promised. And this is a travesty. You know, they stood up for us. It's time to stand up for them, to walk the talk. I read something yesterday that says it all. It goes something like this. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, to all the people you can, in every place you can. And I think that is what I'm doing, and I hope you and your listeners make this your number one priority until it is fixed. It's time to get in the fight for God, family, and those who defended our country.
Now, is there a way anybody can follow you? Is there a website where they can donate, or
Yeah.
something you're talking about here?
Oh, yeah, thank you for asking. It's always at the bottom of my list, but this is important. It's the World Wide Web, justiceforourveterans.com. That's justiceforourveterans.com.
Can you talk a little bit about yesterday in Medina, some people that you may have met or, you know, who you've talked to over the last couple of days?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've been stopping in every VFW and American Legion hall that's open. Usually after my day's ride or walk, I'll go back, we'll backtrack in the chase vehicle, and we'll stop into all the VFW, American Legion halls. Every place I go, we tell people what we're doing, and we make them aware of what's going on with our veterans. And I met with Rolling Thunder, the chapter out of Akron, Ohio, and a few other places. We met and talked, and we filmed their testimony on what has happened to some of their friends. I talked to a gentleman who is a brown water sailor in Vietnam, where, as you know, a brown water sailor is the guy who, these are the guys that are in the patrol boats that went up and down the rivers in Vietnam. And he told a heart-wrenching story about one of his friends who experienced, some horrific, had a horrific experience and took his own life about 2 weeks ago because of the VA basically well, you have to hear his story because it's very heart wrenching. I couldn't summarize it as well as he did, but it was heartbreaking, and that's exactly why I'm doing this. Is because there's well, the VA. If you have an issue, you're depressed, and you call the VA, they put you on hold for about 3 or 4 weeks to get back to you. But by then, it's too late. As you well know, if somebody's contemplating suicide, you need to talk to them right then and there and make them understand that they are important, that they are relevant, and we need them in this world. And unfortunately, well, what can I say? There's a lot of people that come out and say, thank you for your service, and that's it. Well, that's a big difference between when we came home from Vietnam and you couldn't even put Vietnam veteran on your resume to get a job because they thought you were some kind of crazy person, which is not true. We are different because we experienced combat and battle, but we're still a member of the society, and my brothers and sisters sacrificed an awful lot to protect this country.
Okay, so it is justiceforOurVeterans.com. Former Congressman Kerry Bentivolio, we appreciate your time this morning, and we will welcome you to Canton later today.
I'm looking forward to it. I should be there sometime around 3 or 4 o'clock if the rain lets up, and I think it will. It's been sunshine and the whole trip so far.
All right, thank you so much.
God bless.
Well, as a Vietnam veteran, was in the service with this guy from boot camp all the way through the 4 years of our service in the Coast Guard. All right, on a ship called the Hamilton, went to Vietnam 69-70, did everything, went on shore, rebuilt orphanages, boarding details, gunfire support. I was a diver. This buddy of mine was an engineman, but over there in the brown, they call us brown water sailors, our evaporator would suck the water up, evaporate the water, and then we drink it. So you can't get that Agent Orange out of the water.
No.
So we, some had issues when they came back right away and went after them, and some of us didn't. For the most part, most of us, 30 years later, we're starting to get some things transpiring. So we start getting involved with the VA. And one of the things they want to know is, what's your health like? Not one time they ever mentioned anything about Agent Orange.
Right.
Okay, so as the word gets around, you talk to other people, and they say, well, you should go in there and tell them that you want to file a claim or get on the Agent Orange registry at least.
Which I did too.
In case something happens.
I know how that works.
So my buddy, his name is Les Burkins, had some heart issues and some thyroid things going on that none of his family had, so he went into the VA to file an Agent Orange claim. And he got assigned a service rep. He's from Pennsylvania, all right? During the interview process, the service rep says, Les, I think you have PTSD. And he said, well, I didn't come in here to file for PTSD. He says, that's all right. He says, I'm going to send you to an outside shrink and have her, or him, whatever it was, check in. I happen to be a civilian psychiatrist. So he went to see that psychiatrist, went through that gut-wrenching experience, the questions and answering and all this stuff. And they said, yes, you have PTSD. So he filed a claim, and he ended up with 70% disability payments. 2 years later, down the road, they call you back in for another evaluation with the psychiatrist. This time, they put him with a VA psychiatrist. And he had to go through that gut-wrenching experience again of answering all these questions. And some of the questions were,
250 questions.
Yeah, and there's certain questions that they ask him.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have any friends? Yes, I have 2 service buddies that are my close friends. Okay, do you ever get together with them? Well, yes, I do. About maybe once a year and once twice a year. He says, do you ever go out with your wife? Yeah, I go out with my wife once in a while for dinner. Okay. We had this experience with an orphanage over there that we went in and rebuilt in Quinnon, and brought the kids back on board the ship after we built the orphanage and gave them ice cream and cake, and had them have a good time on the ship. Took them back and left, and later on we heard through either the 82 footers or one of the officers that was doing connections to the gunfire support that after we left, the Kong went in there and slaughtered all those kids. Well, that's, shit like that happened over there, as you know.
Yes.
He took that real hard, okay? And he just couldn't get it out of his head. So this latest interview he had, during the interview, this psychiatrist said, well, I don't think you should have got PTSD. He said, what do you mean? He says, I don't think you should have got PTSD. So you can have access to pulling your interview with the psychiatrist or any kind of medical things, go down and get a copy of it. So he went down and got a copy of it, saw what the guy had actually put in with what he had actually told him. And I get the call, because we talked every week. He was in Pennsylvania, I'm in Ohio, the other buddy's in D.C. And we would talk every week, sometimes twice a week. He calls up and says, Jim, he says, I think I really screwed up bad. I said, what are you talking about? He says, well, I just went through this interview process with this VA psych, and he told me I shouldn't be entitled to this PTSD. He says, I know they're going to come back and take this money from me. I said, hold on, Les. I said, you never went in to get it in the first place. They gave it to you based on an outside psychiatrist interviewing you. But the worst thing that could happen is they might shut it off based on this guy's recommendations, because he's, we feel that the VA is trying to take things away from us rather than trying to help us get something to make up for what happened to us. And he had a bad attitude about the government anyway, of what's been going on.
Yeah.
Really a bad attitude.
Well, majority of Americans feel that way.
Yeah.
70% of the population think that the government's corrupt.
Yeah. So no matter what, and I said, what they'll do at the most is they'll probably just shut the payments off. Then you file an appeal. But I said, what you need to do is write a letter and refute what that person wrote in that report based on what you told him. Okay? Because he wrote some extra things that he shouldn't have with his own liberty. He says, no, he says, I know they're going to come and take this money away. If they call you, you have to tell them, And I said, you don't have to worry about me telling them anything because I was right there with you, okay? But they're not going to call us. They don't call anybody. Right. They don't even call a vet that's filing a claim.
Exactly.
Okay? Well, 2 weeks I went through that with him, all right? And the third week he shot himself.
Did he leave a note?
He left a note.
Did you?
He basically said the Vietnam experience, and he couldn't get that slaughter out of his head with those kids, and that there was nothing he could do to change all of that. And I love you. This was to his wife.
Yeah.
He said, I love you, and I'm going to kill myself. And so.
And you buried him, what, last week?
Yeah. Yeah. On his birthday.
On his birthday.
On his birthday.
A couple days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And the damn shame of it is that everybody's different in how they go through this experience, okay, and how they handle it. All of us will, file it away somewhere and just go on with life and do pretty well, but things keep coming back, okay, about that experience. And for him, it was one of those things with that orphanage that he just could not get out of his mind. And I think maybe on his technicality, the shrink picked out because he wasn't the ideal candidate for PTSD. And I don't think he should have told him anything like that. He should have just filled out his report, sent it in, and let him go home. And then end up letting them do what they were going to do. So, just a damn shame.